I am Bree Hawk. I'm a licensed professional counselor in Denver, Colorado, and the owner of a small private practice, just my name, Brianna Hawk. And I also work with a local organization, Collective Counseling Solutions, to help support other therapists in private practice. Yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at.
And you've read The Seven Exits?
Yes, yeah, I got the opportunity to read Seven Exits a few months back, and in the lucky few that got to be part of the process a little bit.
And what was your take on its value, particularly to the mental health profession?
Yeah. It's hard to tease out like just this book because I've now known you for so many years and have read multiple of your books and also got to do one-on-one your coaching program with you. And so it's all it's all intermixed, but Seven Exits really felt like a magnum opus, like so many things that I've learned from you that I've shared and taught my own clients kind of came together in this book. And I think the word always that I associate with you and your work is empowerment. And I think the way that you share this information and the way that you incorporate yourself as an artist in your poetry, the way that you incorporate like, of course, the psychology of it all, but also your personal stories. It just feels like accessible in a way that um, so many books in the self-help and or therapy space can either be like way too academic or way too ungrounded in any kind of like science or theory. And so I just felt like you always do a really good job of kind of joining those two so that it's a human and it's very human in terms of your storytelling and the way you apply the concepts, but also not dumbing things down. Yeah, you always, when as a reader, I always feel like you assume that I'm smart, which I really appreciate.
All right. What part of the Seven Exits had the biggest impact on you?
Hmm. Um, I think this this particular the timing of this and when I was reading it, the things around like mother wounds really impacted me. I think I told you I could kind of hear your voice in my head as I was reading. Um, but man, it's so hard to put these things into words because I just get so excited. But um, I think that there's a lot around about naming emotional immaturity, naming how to recover from being around people who are emotionally immature, from having emotionally immature parents, from being in relationships with a narcissist or someone with borderline personality disorder. But I think a lot of that focus is on the other person. And this felt like bringing it back to, okay, well, how do you become emotionally mature, right? Whether you're the person that is emotionally immature or the person that was impacted by them, like, well, what now? How do you own and, find that empowered place to say, okay, like, here's all the ways I've been impacted. Here's all the ways that my defenses are activated and the patterns that I'm engaging. And so, what does it look like for me to become emotionally mature? And I've yet to find a resource that like lays that out so well in a way that keeps the focus on the reader, the person receiving, as opposed to on thinking about like these other characters in your life that have been hard. And so in terms of the mother wound, it felt like a guide to work on that without having to get my mom involved, you know, like I can access that healing within myself. And I have that same kind of mothering energy within me. It really reminds me of my training as a therapist. So I guess to answer your question, how's this applicable for therapists? Um, I remember back in some of the 101 courses talking about, when a client is in the room, they often will want to talk about someone who is not in the room, but they're your client, and it's important to continue to bring it back to them and who's in the room. And it feels like this book embodies that, to say like, okay, yep, all this stuff happened. This is how you've been impacted. Like, your story, but what now and what now and what now? Like, let's come back to you and what's within your control, within your life and within yourself. So I think that's an empowering resource, I think, for therapists to practice themselves, right? And then also to help clients center themselves in their healing journey.
Thank you for sharing that. And I appreciate that you, as a practitioner, can see the connection between empowerment or 7 X's empowerment and the traditional counseling teaching theories. Uh, did you notice any distinctions that 7 X's offer compared to traditional counseling?
Yes. I think you also invited spirituality into the mix, in a way that, it's interesting. One of my specialties is spiritual and religious trauma. And that's also the world that I grew up in. And there's, again, so much focus on deconstructing and breaking down, these kind of dogmas or mechanisms of control or coercion. But oftentimes when you get all the way deconstructed, there's not a whole lot to help you reconstruct, right? And to say, okay, like, what if we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater? And what if you can still access spirituality without a really oppressive structure involved? And so I think that's also something that academia and psychology can shy away from, right? I feel like the Adlers and Youngs are sort of secondary to the Freuds and the who's that developmental psychologist? I can't think of his name. But anyway, I feel like if there's something that's got some spiritual tinge versus something that doesn't, we lean towards the thing that doesn't. But in my belief, that is part of our makeup as a human, right? We have our physical body, our intellectual mind, our emotions, our energetic body, and our spiritual sense of self, connection to something larger, however you might define that. And I think you provide a path for that and really like blend those two things, affirming that we do need both. Um, and yet not being like, and here's the specific structure that you must follow. um, I think too, a distinction would be that so many books give you like the what, right? What's wrong? And others give you the how to. Um, we're assuming we know what's wrong and here's how you solve it, or here's what's wrong and we're not telling you how to solve it. And I feel like this is a little bit of both, not a little bit, it is both, right? Like you have the pieces around identifying your defenses, identifying your patterns, identifying like the what, and then moving towards the what now or the how. And so I think that's also really hard to do in a book, which is why most books don't do it. So yeah, I think those two things for me would be distinct from other books that I've read.
And who would you recommend the book for?
I mean, who wouldn't I? Definitely therapists. And definitely therapists who like to use books, like who like to assign books as homework to clients, right? To use kind of bibliotherapy. Um, but anyone, I think I think it's just so beneficial. I feel like I'm just sputtering because I can't think of anyone who it wouldn't be good for.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you. Yes, you did mention the poetry in the book, so I'm curious as to what your experience was with the use of poetry.
Yeah. Um, it's my experience. Well, I guess a little context for anyone listening. The first time I ever met you was in one of my grad classes. You were a guest lecturer and you shared what you were sharing about, and then you shared one of your poems. And it was such a profound experience in a couple of ways. One, your poetry is incredibly beautiful. If anyone has the chance to listen to you perform it, it's even better than reading it. Um, but I also just was very, I don't know, taken with you showing up as your creative self as an artist within an academic context. Again, right? Like doing the both and the spiritual and the intellectual, doing the what and the how, doing um like holding paradox. And I think academia can often at least for me make me feel like one part of myself or one version of myself can show up in that space. Um, and so my creative self or my other things about me that are interesting like often are left at the door. And right away I was in my, I don't know, second semester. It just felt like this permission that we're whole people, right? Even this incredible professor who has all this experience can come in and say like, yes, and also I'm a poet, and also that impacts my work and my self. Um, so I think permission to be creative in the work is just embedded in that for me. But then also like you're just an incredible poet. So your poems are, I know when we were chatting and you said someone had encouraged you to put more poetry in the book, I was like, that person needs a lot of high fives because they're right. It's it's just poetry gets at the heart and the mind in a way reading a paragraph can't. Um, and so I think you allowing that to show up in this book is such a gift. And I know it's vulnerable because art is vulnerable.
Mhm. All right. Well, thank you so much. Is there any other last comments you'd like to make about the text?
Oh man. Um, I think I texted you. I was like, I'm about to quote you to you. Um, and so I just want to read it because for anyone who's hearing this who hasn't read the book yet, I hope it encourages them to pick up a copy. Um, let's see. Okay, so in one of the poems, Dr. Bakari writes, but we can learn to heal our heart with creative art, the art of empowerment, of authenticity, of leadership, and the art of truth telling. Um, it's just been such a privilege for me to be a friend, student, mentee, client, editor, colleague of you. And I think that just that phrase, I think, speaks to a lot of what I've been speaking to. That healing can be such a creative act. And yeah, if you haven't read the book, pick it up because it's bound to impact you.
Thank you. I appreciate